This is a story of innovation, comebacks, and revolutionary products that changed how we live. This story begins in 1976 in a small garage in Los Altos, California. At that time, computers were huge machines that only big companies and universities could afford. Wozniak was a brilliant engineer who loved building electronics, and Jobs was a visionary who understood what people would want. Together, they built the Apple I computer in Jobs' parents' garage. It was a simple circuit board, but it was revolutionary because it was designed for regular people, not just tech experts. They sold it for $666 and made around 200 units. The response was encouraging, so they knew they were onto something big. Within a year, they launched the Apple II, which was a complete computer with a keyboard, color graphics, and the ability to run different programs. By 1980, Apple had grown from a garage startup to a real company with hundreds of employees and millions in revenue. The company went public in December 1980, and the initial public offering was one of the biggest since Ford Motor Company in 1956. Steve Jobs became a multi-millionaire overnight, and Apple was now a serious player in the technology industry. Apple launched the Macintosh in 1984 with a famous Super Bowl commercial directed by Ridley Scott. They could just point and click. This was completely different from other computers at that time. However, despite the innovation, Macintosh sales were disappointing. It was expensive, it had limited software, and businesses preferred IBM computers, which were becoming the industry standard. Jobs was pushing for innovation and perfection, while Scully focused on business operations and profitability. The tension grew so much that in 1985, the Apple board sided with Scully, and Steve Jobs was forced out of his own company. This was a devastating moment for Jobs, but it turned out to be a crucial turning point in the story. The company released various products through the late 1980s and early 1990s, but nothing was truly revolutionary. They had decent sales, but Microsoft Windows was taking over the personal computer market. Apple's market share was declining steadily. They were losing money, market share was down to single digits, and many analysts were predicting that Apple would go bankrupt or be acquired by a larger company. The company went through several CEOs, but none could turn things around. Meanwhile, Steve Jobs had started two new companies after leaving Apple. One was Next Computer, which made high-end computers and developed advanced software. The other was Pixar, an animation studio that would later create Toy Story and become incredibly successful. In 1996, Apple made a decision that would change everything. They needed a new operating system because their current one was outdated and couldn't compete with Windows. This was the beginning of one of the greatest comebacks in business history. Jobs immediately started making radical changes. He looked at Apple's product line and was shocked. There were dozens of different models of computers with confusing names and overlapping features. Customers didn't know what to buy, and the company was wasting resources on too many products. Jobs cut the product line dramatically. He created a simple 2x2 grid, consumer and professional on one axis, desktop and portable on the other axis. That meant just 4 main products instead of dozens. This focus allowed Apple to put all their energy and resources into making those 4 products absolutely excellent. He also killed projects that weren't essential, renegotiated contracts with suppliers, and even made a deal with Microsoft, Apple's biggest competitor, to invest $150 million in Apple and continue making Office software for Mac. This was controversial, but it gave Apple cash and credibility when they desperately needed both. In 1998, Apple launched the iMac, and this product symbolized the new Apple. The design was friendly and approachable. It was easy to set up, you just plugged it in and you were ready to go. The iMac became a huge hit, selling millions of units and bringing Apple back to profitability. But Jobs wasn't satisfied with just making computers. The design was beautiful, simple, and the click-wheel interface was intuitive. This combination of hardware, the iPod, and software, iTunes Store, created an ecosystem that was incredibly successful. This success gave Apple confidence to enter other markets and showed that they could create entirely new product categories. He said Apple was launching 3 revolutionary products: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. Then he revealed these weren't 3 separate devices. They were one device called iPhone. There was no keyboard, no stylus, just your fingers on a beautiful multi-touch screen. Mobile phone companies and tech experts were skeptical. They said people wanted physical keyboards. The iPhone was too expensive at $599, and it wouldn't work. Apple sold millions in the first year, and then tens of millions, and then hundreds of millions. The iPhone created the smartphone revolution and completely changed the mobile phone industry. Apple introduced the App Store in 2008, which let developers create applications for the iPhone. The iPhone became Apple's most important product, generating more than half of the company's revenue. Apple didn't stop there. It was perfect for reading, watching videos, browsing the web, and doing light work. Schools bought iPads for students. Businesses used them for presentations and point-of-sale systems, and families used them for entertainment. Apple also expanded their ecosystem with services: iCloud for storing data, Apple Music for streaming music, Apple Pay for mobile payments, and later Apple TV Plus for streaming video. Each service made customers more invested in the Apple ecosystem. This ecosystem strategy created incredible customer loyalty and recurring revenue from services. Tragically, Steve Jobs died in 2011 after a long battle with cancer. He was less about dramatic product launches and more about operational excellence, expanding markets, and growing the business steadily. Under Cook, Apple continued to grow massively. They expanded into new product categories like the Apple Watch in 2015, which became the world's best-selling smartwatch. Cook also focused on growing Apple's presence in China and India, huge markets with billions of potential customers. He improved Apple's supply chain, negotiated better deals with suppliers, and increased profit margins. Apple's revenue continued growing year after year, reaching hundreds of billions of dollars annually. The key strategies behind Apple's success are clear and consistent. First is design and user experience. Apple products are not just functional, they are beautiful and intuitive to use. Every detail matters, from the packaging to the software interface. Third is premium positioning. Apple doesn't try to be the cheapest option. They position themselves as premium products worth paying more for because of quality, design, and experience. Fourth is vertical integration. Sixth is innovation focus. Apple doesn't try to be first with new technology, but they wait until they can do it better than anyone else and create a great user experience. Seventh is brand building. Apple has created one of the strongest brands in the world, representing innovation, quality, and status. Today, Apple is the most valuable company in the world with a market capitalization that has exceeded $3 trillion. They generate over $380 billion in annual revenue. The iPhone alone generates more revenue than most Fortune 500 companies make in total. They have over 150,000 employees and operate retail stores in countries around the world. This is Apple's incredible business journey.